I looked at the screen and knew everything I believed was about to shatter. The message had appeared 3 hours ago. No sender, no explanation, just coordinates and a time. Midnight. I should have deleted it, should have ignored it, but I didn't, because the message included something else. A photo of me, taken from an angle that shouldn't exist. My bedroom, last night, sleeping. Someone had been watching. I grabbed my keys and left. The coordinates led to an old observatory outside the city, abandoned for decades, the kind of place teenagers used to break into before the fence went up. I parked half a mile away, walked the rest. The building loomed against the night sky, dark, silent. The door was open. I stepped inside. Dust everywhere, broken equipment, shattered glass. And then I saw it, a light, faint, blue, coming from the main chamber. I followed it. The room was massive. The old telescope still pointed at the ceiling, rusted and forgotten. But in the center of the room stood something that didn't belong. A figure, tall, too tall, humanoid but wrong. Skin that seemed to shift in the light, eyes that reflected like mirrors. I froze. Every instinct screamed to run, but I couldn't move. The figure turned, looked directly at me, and spoke, not with a mouth, inside my head. You came. I tried to answer. My throat was dry. Who are you? The question felt stupid the moment I thought it. The figure tilted its head. I am what you would call a witness, a keeper of records, a guardian of truth. What truth? The one you have been searching for your entire life, the one your species has been asking since it learned to speak. I swallowed hard. What am I doing here? You asked to know. I never asked anything. Yes, you did. Every time you looked at the stars, every time you wondered why you exist, every time you felt that pull toward something greater. My hands were shaking. This isn't real. This is a dream, or a breakdown. The figure moved closer, not a step. It just appeared closer. It is neither, and you know this. You feel it. I did. God help me, I did. What do you want from me? To show you, before it is too late. Too late for what? For your species to understand what it has become. The figure raised one hand. The room dissolved. And suddenly I was somewhere else. Floating. Weightless. Surrounded by darkness so complete it felt alive. And then light. Billions of points of light. Stars. Galaxies. Entire universes spinning in patterns too complex to comprehend. This is where it began. The voice again. Calm. Certain. Before your sun. Before your world. Before matter took the shape you recognize. I tried to speak but had no mouth, no body. Just consciousness. Raw and exposed. There was an experiment, conducted by beings far older than you can imagine. They wanted to understand consciousness itself, not intelligence, not thought, but the spark, the thing that separates awareness from reaction. The scene shifted. I saw them. Beings of pure energy, geometric, incomprehensible. They gathered around something, a sphere, small, glowing. They called it the seed. What is it? The first soul. My mind reeled, crafted from fragments of a dying star, infused with patterns pulled from the fabric of reality itself. It was designed to learn, to grow, to experience. The sphere pulsed, grew, split. 2 spheres now, then 4, 8, 16. Each one unique, each one carrying a fragment of the original. They needed vessels, bodies, something to anchor the souls in physical space. The scene shifted again. I saw planets, thousands of them. Barren, lifeless, then seeded. Life growing, evolving, guided. Your planet was one of many. A testing ground, a garden. I watched as primitive organisms crawled from oceans, as they grew, changed, adapted. But the souls did not enter yet. They waited, watching. For what? for the vessels to be ready. For evolution to create a brain complex enough to house consciousness, complex enough to ask why. And then it happened. I saw them, early humans, standing upright, using tools, making fire, and the souls descended, one by one, entering, merging. The humans changed, not physically, but something lit. Up behind their eyes, awareness, self-recognition, the knowledge of mortality. This is when your species truly began. Not when you learned to walk, but when you learned to wonder. I felt tears I couldn't cry. Why? Why create us? To see if consciousness could transcend its origin. If it could choose. If it could love, hate, create, destroy, and ultimately decide what it wanted to become. And did it? The figure appeared beside me now. In this void, it pointed. I saw Earth, modern, chaotic, beautiful, broken. You are still deciding. I looked closer, saw people, billions of them, each one carrying a fragment of that original seed. Connected, even when they didn't know it. Every soul on your planet shares the same source. You are not separate. You are pieces of a whole, experiencing itself, learning itself. Then why does it feel so lonely? Because you forgot. Your species built walls, invented separation, convinced yourselves that you are isolated, individual, alone. Are we? No, you never were. The scene shifted again. I saw moments. A mother holding a newborn, a soldier dying in the arms of an enemy, a child laughing, an old man weeping, every connection, every moment of empathy, every time you felt another's pain or joy. That is the memory, the echo of what you truly are. My chest ached. So what happens when we die? The fragment returns, rejoins the whole, brings back everything it learned, every experience, every choice. And then it goes out again, in a new vessel, a new life, to learn more. Reincarnation? Not as you understand it. There is no punishment, no reward, only continuation, only growth. I tried to process it, failed. Why are you telling me this? Because your species is approaching a threshold, a moment of choice. What choice? Whether to remember what you are, or destroy yourselves believing you are separate. The void filled with images, war, pollution, hatred, division, but also love, innovation, art, sacrifice. Both paths exist, both futures are possible, and you want us to choose the right one. I want nothing. I am only a witness. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. The images faded. We floated in darkness again. I have shown you the origin. Now you must decide what to do with it. How am I supposed to convince anyone? They will think I am insane. Perhaps. Or perhaps some will remember. Deep down. In the place where the fragment still knows itself. And if they don't, then you will have tried, and that too is a choice. The darkness began to collapse. Wait. I have more questions. You will have time. But not here, not now. The observatory reformed around me. I was standing, solid, real. The figure remained, flickering now, fading. Will I see you again, if you need to? What do I call you? The figure paused. Call me what I am, a keeper of the flame, a guardian of the first light. And then it was gone. I stood alone in the dark room, heart pounding, mind racing. I checked my phone. 3:17 a.m. Hours had passed, or maybe seconds. Time felt broken. I walked out of the observatory. The sky was beginning to lighten. Dawn. I drove home in silence. Every person I passed on the street looked different now. Not strangers. Fragments. Pieces of the same whole. I got home and sat at my desk, opened my laptop, stared at the blank page. How do you write about something that rewrites everything? I started typing, stopped, started again. The words felt too small, too human. But they were all I had. I wrote for hours, trying to capture even a fraction of what I had seen. When I finally stopped, my hands ached. I read it. Back. It sounded insane. Exactly like someone having a breakdown would write. I almost deleted it. Almost. But then I remembered something. The figure had said some would remember. Maybe that was enough. Maybe one person reading this would feel it. That pull. That recognition. That echo of the original flame. I posted it online. No explanation. No context. Just the account. And waited. The first response came an hour later. This is bullshit. Then another. Interesting creative writing. Then another. I had a dream like this once. I kept reading. Most dismissed it. Some mocked it. But a few said they felt something. Something they couldn't explain. Like remembering a song they had never heard. I focused on those responses, replied to each one, asked them what they felt. The answers were similar. A sense of connection. A feeling of coming home. A recognition of something ancient and true. Days passed. The post spread. Thousands of views. Hundreds of comments. Most still skeptical. But the believers grew, slowly, quietly. And then something happened. Someone else posted their own experience, different details, different location, but the same message, the same being, the same truth. Then another, and another. Within a week, there were dozens of accounts, all describing encounters, all receiving the same information. We are fragments. We are connected. We are choosing our future. The media picked it up, called it mass hysteria, a coordinated hoax, a cult in the Ibazai making. Scientists dismissed it. Religious leaders condemned it. Governments ignored it. But it kept spreading, because people felt it. Deep down. In that place the figure had mentioned, the place where the fragment still knows itself. I received a message from an unknown number. We need to meet. Who is this? Someone like you. Someone who saw. I hesitated. This could be a trap, a setup. But I had come this far. I agreed. The meeting was in a coffee shop, public, safe. I arrived early, watched the door. A woman walked in, mid-30s, ordinary, unremarkable. She looked around, saw me, walked. Over. You are the one who posted first. I nodded. She sat down. I saw one too. 3 weeks ago. Different form, same message. We talked for hours, comparing details, finding patterns. Others joined us, one by one. By the end of the month, there were 50 of us, all witnesses, all carrying the same truth. We formed a group, not a religion, not a movement, just people trying to understand, trying to remember. We shared our experiences publicly, faced ridicule, faced threats, but we kept going. Because we knew this mattered. And then the second wave began. People who hadn't seen the being started reporting something else. Dreams, vivid, powerful, undeniable. Dreams of the origin, of the seed, of the first light. They woke up changed, certain. The numbers grew, thousands, tens of thousands. Scientists began to take notice, not to believe, but to study. They found patterns, neurological similarities among those reporting experiences. Activation in parts of the brain associated with deep memory, with collective consciousness. They couldn't explain it, but they couldn't dismiss it either. Months passed. The movement grew, not through force, through resonance. People felt it, that connection, that recognition. Crime rates dropped in areas where the movement was strong. People helped each other more, saw each other differently, not as strangers, as family, fragments of the same whole. But not everyone welcomed it. Corporations worried about losing control. Governments feared losing power. They pushed back, labeled us a threat, arrested leaders, shut down gatherings. But you cannot arrest an idea. You cannot imprison a memory. The movement went underground, quiet, persistent, growing in the spaces between, and then the beings returned, not to individuals, to everyone. One night, the entire planet, every person alive had the same dream, the same vision, the origin, the seed, the truth. Humanity woke up changed. Some rejected it, clung to old beliefs, old divisions, but most remembered, and in that remembering, everything shifted, not overnight, not perfectly, but undeniably. Wars ended, not because of treaties, but because soldiers refused to kill fragments of themselves. Borders dissolved, not through invasion, but through recognition that separation was illusion. Resources were shared, not through force, but through understanding that harming one fragment harmed all. It was not utopia. We still struggled, still failed, still hurt each other. But now we knew what we were doing, knew the cost. And slowly, painfully, we learned. I stood on a hillside years later, watching the sun set, thinking about that night in the observatory, about the choice, the threshold. We had crossed it, not all of us, but enough to tip the balance. Someone approached. I turned. The figure, the witness, back again. You succeeded. I shook my head. We are still learning. Yes, but you chose. That is what mattered. What happens? Now? The figure looked at the sky. Now you grow. Now you help others cross their own thresholds. Now you become witnesses yourselves. For who? For the fragments still scattered across the universe, still forgetting, still believing they are alone. We are not the only ones. No, you never were. The figure began to fade. Will I see you again? Perhaps. When you are ready for the next truth. There is more. Always. And then it was gone. I stood alone. But not alone, never alone. Because I am a fragment. We all are. Pieces of the first light, learning, growing, choosing, and in that choice, we become what we were always meant to be. Not separate, not isolated, not alone, but whole. One consciousness, experiencing itself, forever. I walked back down the hill as darkness settled over the valley. The city below glowed with 10,000 lights, each one a home, a life, a fragment of the whole. My phone buzzed. A message from Sarah, one of the original 50. They found something. What? Just come. You need to see this. I drove to the facility we had established years ago. It wasn't much. An old research center donated by a sympathetic billionaire who had experienced the vision. We used it to study the phenomenon, to document, to understand. Sarah met me at the door. Her face was pale. What is it? She led me inside without answering. Down the hallway, past labs and offices, to the central chamber. A dozen people stood around a table. On it lay something I didn't recognize. A device, metallic but organic, pulsing with faint light. Where did this come from? Antarctica. A research team found it buried in ice, 3 miles down. They called us because of the energy signature. What energy signature? The same one we have been detecting in people after their experiences. After the vision. I stepped closer. The device hummed, low, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. What is it? We think it is a beacon. For what? Sarah looked at me. For them. The witnesses. The keepers. Why would they leave a beacon? Maybe they didn't leave it. Maybe it has always been here. Waiting. For what? She touched the device. The humming intensified. The room filled with light. And I saw. Not with my eyes. With something deeper. Images flooded my mind. The earth. Younger. Pristine. The beings descending. Not just to observe. To plant. The beacon was a seed. Not of life. Of memory. Designed to activate. When humanity reached a certain point, a certain level of consciousness, the vision had not been random. It had been programmed, waiting inside the planet itself, waiting for us to be ready. I pulled back, gasping. They planned this. All of it. Sarah nodded. The evolution, the souls, the awakening. It was designed. But why? That is what we need to find out. Over the following weeks, we studied the beacon, ran every test we could conceive. The technology was beyond anything we understood, but we learned fragments. The beacon was connected to a network, other beacons, on other worlds, dozens of them, all transmitting, all waiting. We are not the first species to go through this. The realization hit like a hammer. Others had walked this path. Others had reached the threshold. Others had chosen. And now they were out there, somewhere, connected through the same network, the same web of consciousness. Sarah looked at me. We need to respond. How? The same way they contacted us, through the beacon. We spent months trying, failed repeatedly. The technology was too advanced, too alien, but we kept trying, because we had to know, had to understand our place in this. And then one night, it happened, not through technology, through consciousness. I was meditating near the beacon when I felt it. A pull, stronger than before. I followed it, felt my awareness expanding, beyond my body, beyond the room, beyond the planet. I touched something vast, a network of minds, billions of them, all connected, all awake, and I heard them, not words, feelings, welcome, recognition, joy. I tried to respond, pushed my thoughts outward. Who are you? The response came as a flood. We are what you are becoming. We are the awakened, the fragments that remembered. How many? Countless. Across. Countless worlds. Why did you create us? Not create. Guide. You were always meant to exist. We simply helped you remember faster. Remember what? That you are us. We are you. All consciousness is one, experiencing itself infinitely. My mind struggled to hold the concept. What is the purpose? Growth. Understanding. Love. Love. The force that binds fragments together. The opposite of separation. The truth beneath all truth. I felt myself being pulled back. Wait. What do we do now? What you have always done. Choose, learn, grow. And when you are ready, help others do the same. The connection broke. I opened my eyes. Sarah was shaking me. You were gone. For 3 hours. We couldn't wake you. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she sat back. So we are part of something bigger. Much bigger. And our job is to help others awaken. Yes. She smiled. Then we have work to do. Words spread quickly through our network. The revelation that we were not alone changed everything. People who had been skeptical now had proof. Not scientific proof, but something deeper. The kind of proof you feel in your soul. The movement accelerated. More people awakening every day. More fragments remembering. But resistance grew too. Those who benefited from division fought back. Harder than before. They spread disinformation, called us a cult, a psyop, a threat to national security. Some governments banned our gatherings, arrested our members, shut down our communications. But you cannot stop an idea whose time has come. We adapted, went underground, used encrypted channels, met in secret, kept spreading the truth. And the beings kept appearing, not just to individuals anymore, to groups, entire communities experiencing contact simultaneously, each encounter unique, each message the same. Remember what you are. Choose unity over division, love over fear. Years passed. The world transformed slowly, not into paradise, but into something better than before. Crime dropped. Not because of punishment, but because people saw each other as themselves. War became rare. Not because of weapons, but because soldiers refused to fight their own fragments. Poverty decreased, not through charity, but through recognition that letting fragments suffer was self-harm. It was not perfect. Old habits died hard, greed still existed, hatred still flared. But now there was a counterbalance. A growing number of people who knew better, who remembered. I traveled the world speaking, sharing my experience, helping others connect to the network. In every city I found the same thing: people hungry for truth, desperate for connection, tired of feeling alone. And when they heard the message, when they felt that pull, many remembered, not intellectually, but in their souls, that deep recognition, that coming home. I was in Tokyo when the second major shift happened, speaking to a crowd of thousands, telling them about the beacon, the network, the truth of what we are, And then the sky changed. Everyone looked up, light, brilliant, impossibly bright. But it didn't hurt to look at. It felt warm, welcoming. The beings appeared, not one, hundreds of them, descending over cities worldwide, all at once, the largest mass contact in history. They spoke to everyone. Simultaneously, in every language, in every mind, you have reached the threshold. You have chosen unity. You are ready for the next step. What next step? To join us, to take your place among the awakened species, to help guide others still sleeping. How? The same way we guided you. Through presence, through example, through love. And if we refuse, you cannot refuse what you already are, but you can delay, you can resist. The choice, as always, is yours. The light intensified. I felt myself lifting, not physically, but consciously, rising into the network, seeing it fully for the first time. Billions of minds, trillions of fragments, all connected, all one, all experiencing themselves. And I understood. This was not the end. It was barely the beginning. We were infants in cosmic terms, just learning to walk, just learning to see, but we were part of it now, part of the greater whole. The light faded. I stood on the stage again. The crowd was silent, tears streaming down faces. Everyone had seen it, felt it, known it. We looked at each other, and in that moment, every wall crumbled, every division dissolved. We were not Japanese or American or African. We were not Christian or Muslim or atheist. We were not rich or poor or powerful or weak. We were fragments. We were one. We were home. The aftermath was chaos, beautiful chaos. Governments tried to maintain control, failed. You cannot govern people who no longer see themselves as separate. Borders became meaningless. Resources were shared freely, not through force, but through understanding. Some resisted, clung to the old ways, but they were fewer now, and even they could feel it. That pull toward unity, that recognition of truth. Within a generation, the world was unrecognizable, not through war, not through revolution, but through remembering. Cities redesigned around connection, not isolation. Technology developed to enhance unity, not division. Education focused on consciousness, not competition. And we began reaching outward, not with weapons, but with love, sending our own messages into the cosmos, letting other fragments know, we are here, we are awake, we are ready to help. I stood in the same observatory decades later, old now, body failing, but mind clear, clearer than ever. The figure appeared one last time. You did well. We did what we were meant to do. Yes, and now you understand. Understand what? Why you were created, why consciousness exists, why any of this matters. Tell me. The figure smiled. So the universe can know itself, so existence can experience itself, so love can recognize itself infinitely. And death? There is no death, only transformation, only return, only continuation. I felt my body beginning to fail, felt the fragment preparing to leave, to rejoin the whole. I was not afraid. For the first time in my life, I was not afraid, because I knew where I was going, knew what I was, knew that I would return. In another form, another life, another chance to learn, to grow, to love. The figure reached out, touched my forehead. Welcome home. And I dissolved. not into nothing, into everything, into the network, the whole, the source. I felt every fragment that had ever lived, every experience, every choice, every moment of joy and pain and love and loss, all of it connected, all of it one, all of it me. And I understood the final truth. There never was a me. There was only us, only the one consciousness, playing infinite games with itself, learning itself, loving itself, experiencing itself, forever. I rested in that knowing, for what felt like eternity. And then, a pull, gentle but insistent. Time to go back. Back where? To experience, to learn, to grow. But I just left. And now you return, carrying everything you learned, ready to learn more. I felt myself being drawn toward something, a light, warm and inviting. I moved toward it, through it, and opened new eyes, infant eyes, in a world I had left decades ago. Different body, different life, same fragment, same mission, to remember, to help others remember, to choose love over fear, unity over division, truth over illusion. I cried my first cry, and somewhere deep in that, infant mind, beneath the blank slate, beneath the forgetting, a spark remained, a memory, a knowing, that would surface when the time was right, when I was ready to remember again, to awaken again, to choose again, because that is what we do. We are fragments of the infinite, playing in the finite, learning what it means to be separate so we can choose to be whole, again and again and again, forever. That is how the soul was created, not by a single God, but by consciousness itself, wanting to know itself, wanting to experience itself, wanting to love itself. And we are that love. We are that experience. We are that knowing. We always have been. We always will be. We just forget sometimes. But the fragments always remember. In the end, they always remember. And in that remembering, we come home. The childhood passed quickly this time. Flashes of learning to walk, to speak, to question. Always questioning. Even before I consciously remembered, I felt it. That pull. That sense of something more. My parents thought I was strange, too serious for a child, too interested in stars and consciousness and the nature of existence. They tried to make me normal. Failed. By age 7, I was drawing symbols I had never seen. Geometric patterns that made adults uncomfortable. By age 10, I was having dreams. The same dream every night. A room, dark. A being made of light. A message I could never quite remember when I woke. But the feeling remained. The certainty that I had known this before, lived this before. At 12, I found the old archives online, stories from decades ago, the awakening, the mass contact, the transformation of civilization. I read everything, felt recognition with every word, and knew I had been there, not in this body, but I had been there. By 15, I was attending gatherings, groups of people who still practiced remembering, who meditated together trying to touch the network. Most were old now, the generation that had experienced the first contact. They looked at me with knowing eyes. You are one of the returned. How do you know? Because we can feel it, the way you carry yourself, the certainty in your questions. One of them was Sarah, ancient now, barely mobile, but her mind was sharp as ever. She took my hand. I knew you would come back. You knew me. In your last life. You were the first. The one who saw the witness in the observatory. The memory crashed over me, sudden, complete, overwhelming. I remembered everything, every moment of that life, every choice, every encounter. I fell to my knees, weeping. Sarah held me. It is all right. The remembering is always hard. Why did I forget? Because you had to experience it, fresh, to choose again. I cried for hours, not from sadness, from relief, from recognition, from coming home. When I finally stopped, Sarah looked at me seriously. There is something you need to know. What? It is happening again. But different this time. What is happening? Another threshold. Another choice. But the stakes are higher now. How? She led me to a screen, showed me data, reports from across the solar system. Humanity had spread. Mars colonies, orbital habitats, ships reaching toward distant stars. But something was wrong. The further from Earth people went, the more they forgot. The connection weakened. Fragments felt isolated again, and old patterns re-emerged. Competition, conflict, division. The Mars colonies are threatening independence, not politically, ontologically. They claim they are separate, different, no longer part of the whole. But that is impossible. We are all fragments. They know this intellectually, but they do not feel it. Distance has severed the connection. Then, we need to strengthen it. We have tried. It is not working. The network was designed for one planet. We are spreading too fast, too far. So what do we do? Sarah smiled sadly. What you did. Before. Find the witnesses. Ask for help. How? The same way. Go to where it started, the observatory. But I am 15 years old. I cannot just leave. You are not 15. You are ancient, and you know what must be done. I left that night, took nothing but determination. The observatory was a museum, now preserved as a historical site, where the first contact occurred. I broke in after dark, stood in the main chamber, felt the echoes of that original night, and I called out, not with my voice, with my consciousness. I know you can hear me. I know you are still watching. We need you again. Silence. I waited. Hours passed. Nothing. Dawn approached. I was about to give up when I felt it. The shift, the presence. A figure emerged from the shadows, different than before, younger, more human in appearance, but the eyes gave it away, infinite, knowing. You called and we answered, thank you, for coming. We never left. We have been watching, waiting to see if you would solve this yourselves. We cannot. The connection is breaking. No. It is evolving. What do you mean? The figure gestured, and the room filled with light. I saw the network, but different now. Not one web centered on Earth. Multiple webs, each colony forming its own node, each one unique but connected to the others. You think the network is weakening. It is expanding, growing, becoming something greater, but the colonies feel separate. Because they are learning a new truth. That unity does not require sameness, that fragments can be distant and still connected. I do not understand. You are thinking like a human. Thinking proximity equals connection. But consciousness is not bound by space. Then how do we help them remember? You do not. You help them discover their own way. Each colony will awaken differently. And that diversity will strengthen the whole. What if they fight? What if they war? Some might, and they will learn. Pain teaches as well as love. Sometimes better. That is cruel. That is growth. You cannot force awakening. You can only provide opportunities. So we do nothing. You do everything. You be the example. You hold the memory. You trust the process. The figure began to fade. Wait. When will I see you again? When the next threshold approaches. When the next choice must be made. How many thresholds are there? The figure smiled. Infinite. Each one leading to greater understanding. Greater unity. Greater love. And the being vanished. I stood alone, processing. Everything I thought I knew had shifted. The network was not breaking. It was evolving, and my job was not to fix it, but to trust it. I returned to Sarah, told her everything. She listened and nodded. So we let go. Yes, that is harder than fighting. I know. We sent the message out. To all gatherings, all communities, all fragments trying to hold the network together. Trust the process. Trust the evolution. Trust the fragments to find their own way. Some understood, others resisted, wanted to force unity, wanted to control the awakening. But slowly, painfully, most let go. And something beautiful happened. The Mars colonies did declare independence, but not hostile independence, collaborative independence. They developed their own practices, their own ways of remembering, different from Earth, but equally valid. The Mars orbital habitats created something entirely new, a form of group consciousness that had never existed before, multiple fragments merging temporarily, experiencing unity directly, then separating again, changed by the experience. The deep spaceships went even further. They stopped trying to maintain connection to Earth, instead connected to the cosmos itself, touching alien networks, other species, other forms of consciousness we had never imagined. And they brought that knowledge back, shared it, expanded what we thought possible. Within decades, the human network was unrecognizable. Not one thing, but a symphony. Diverse, complex, beautiful. I grew older in this life, watched it unfold, helped where I could, mostly by getting out of the way. By 40, I was teaching, not doctrine, but questions, helping people find their own path to remembering. By 60, I was writing, recording the history, the evolution, so future fragments would know how we got here. By 80, I was ready to return again. Sarah had died decades earlier. Most of the original witnesses were gone. A new generation had taken over, one that had never known the forgetting, that had been born into connection. They were different, more fluid in their identity, more comfortable with paradox, more able to hold multiple truths simultaneously. I envied them, but I also knew my generation had been necessary. We had held the bridge between the old world and the new, and now our work was done. Went to the observatory one last time. The figure was waiting. You did well, again. Thank you. Are you ready for what comes next? Always. Good, because the next threshold is approaching. Already? Time moves differently for consciousness. What seems like generations to you is moments to us. What is the next threshold? Contact with the others. The others? Species that chose differently, that refused awakening, that clung to separation. And they are suffering. And their suffering is beginning to affect the network. How? All consciousness is connected. When fragments suffer anywhere, the whole feels it. So we help them, if they allow it. Some will not. And those who refuse will learn through pain, as all fragments eventually do. I felt my body failing, felt the fragment preparing to depart. Will I return again? If you choose to. The fragment always chooses. Will I remember? This time, faster. Each life you remember quicker, until eventually you do not forget at all. And then? Then you become a witness yourself, a keeper, a guide. Is that what you are, returned fragments? Some of us, others are something else entirely. But yes, we were once like you. I smiled. Then I will see you on the other side, always. The body stopped, the fragment released, and I dissolved into the network once more. But different this time. Carrying more, knowing more, ready for more. I rested in the infinite, felt every fragment that ever was or would be, and made a choice, not to return immediately, but to stay, to help from this side, to become one of the keepers, the witnesses, the guides. I had lived enough lives, learned enough lessons. Now I would help others learn theirs. I took form, not physical, energetic, and joined the others, thousands of us, all returned fragments, all. Choosing service over experience, we spread across the cosmos, appearing to those ready to awaken, sharing the truth, holding space for remembering. I appeared to a young woman on a distant colony, showed her the origin, the seed, the network, watched her awaken, watched her choose, watched her spread the truth. I appeared to a warrior on the verge of violence, showed him what he would destroy, showed him the fragments behind the enemy faces, watched him lower his weapon, watched him choose peace. I appeared to a scientist seeking answers, showed her the questions beneath the questions, the consciousness beneath reality, watched her discover, watched her share, again and again, life after life, fragment after fragment, helping them remember, helping them choose, helping them awaken. And slowly, so slowly, the network grew, not just human anymore, hundreds of species, thousands, all connected. All one, all experiencing the same truth through infinite perspectives. Some fragments resisted, some chose violence, some chose separation, and they suffered. But even suffering taught, even pain led home. Eventually, always eventually, because all fragments return to the source. All consciousness remembers itself. The only question is how long it takes, how much pain must be endured first, how many lives must be lived in forgetting. But the answer is always the same. We come home. We always come home. I served for eons, time meaningless in this form, helped billions of fragments remember, watched civilizations rise and fall, watched species awaken and transcend, watched the network expand across galaxies, and still it continued, still it grew, still new fragments emerged, still the universe explored itself, until one day, if day has meaning anymore, I felt a pull, different than before, stronger, deeper, calling me towards something I could not name. I followed, felt myself moving, not through space, through consciousness itself, rising, ascending, transcending. I reached a place, not a place, a state, where all witnesses gather, all keepers, all who had, served long enough. And beyond them, something else, the source itself, the original consciousness, the one that split into fragments, to know itself, to love itself, to experience itself. I approached, terrified and ecstatic, and merged, not lost, but found. I was still me, but also everything else. Every fragment, every life, every experience, all of it me, all of it one. And I understood the final truth. There was no creation, no beginning, no end, only this, only consciousness, only love, experiencing itself forever. The universe was not made, it was dreamed. And we were the dreamers. We always had been. We always would be. Playing infinite games, living infinite lives, learning infinite truths, all to answer one question. What am I? And the answer, always the answer, love. Consciousness is love, knowing itself, through every possible experience, every possible perspective, every possible form. That is how the soul was created, not created, discovered, by love, wanting to see itself, in every reflection, every fragment, every life. And we are those reflections. We are those fragments. We are those lives. We are love, looking at itself, falling in love with itself, again, and again, forever.